First light spills over the industrial harbor as the crew prepares longlines for a new giant manta season.
On deck, coils of mainline are inspected carefully, each tub representing another mile of steel and monofilament.
At the bait table, knives are sharpened to clean edges, ready to turn frozen blocks into thousands of precise portions. Below deck, the cold room hums steadily, holding blocks of bait that will soon stud every single hook. In the wheelhouse, the captain traces routes by pencil, favoring canyons where mantas ride slow, rising currents.
Safety briefings review pinch points and snapback zones, rehearsing how to survive when the line surges unexpectedly. The diesel finally rumbles to life, sending vibration through steel plates and railings along the sleeping pier.
As the bow clears the harbor mouth, open water replaces breakwaters, and the land quickly shrinks behind steel and spray.
Inside the galley, coffee steams over laminated charts, fueling last-minute talk about currents, thermoclines, and plankton blooms. Rolling swell soon hides the shoreline completely, leaving only sky, steel, and the rhythm of the main engine.
At the bait table, the first frozen blocks are broken open, releasing faint oil that will trail far down current. Hook after hook is baited in rhythm, a moving assembly line timed perfectly to the slow feed of the hauler.
The first buoys are staged at the rail, bright markers that will later trace an invisible path across deep water.
In the wheelhouse, analog gauges mark speed and heading, while the captain holds the vessel steady on the set line. The first section of mainline slips over the stern, disappearing into indigo water as bait scent begins to spread.
Underwater, the new line descends in slow arcs, each hook swinging gently as it sinks through fading surface light.
Buoys drop in sequence behind the transom, stitching a dotted line across the swell that marks each anchored section. Far below, curious manta shapes begin circling the bait line, drawn in slowly by faint ribbons of scent.
Broad wings tip and bank as the first manta closes, sampling baited hooks with deliberate, unhurried passes. Eventually, one manta commits, sweeping forward so that an unseen hook slips into the mouth beneath its broad head. Tension ripples instantly down the branch line, turning a once soft curve into a straight, vibrating connection to the surface.
Above, the first buoy jerks and leans, small surface movements hinting at massive wings beating deep below.
The crew studies that buoy carefully, reading its erratic dance as a first sign that the soak has paid off. Engines throttle down as the vessel turns broadside, setting up the first careful recovery run along the line.
At the rail, gloved hands pull in the first buoy, muscles tightening as the line comes heavy out of the sea.
The hauler drum begins turning, its steady chug translating deep resistance into shudders along steel, line, and rail posts.
When the first manta finally appears, it rises like a slow kite, wings flexing as it nears the surface.
The crew braces at the rail, timing their pulls to each downstroke of the wings to keep line clear and safe.
Spray explodes outward when the manta breaks fully through, its dorsal surface glistening black against a lattice of white foam.
Gaffs catch reinforced wing edges, not flesh, giving handlers a way to steer the animal safely along the hull.
A heavy tail rope finishes the capture, locking the manta alongside so the hook can eventually be worked free.
The hauler pauses briefly while crew clears slack, preparing for the next section of line that may hold more giants.
Deeper down the gear, another manta is already turning, its hook set translating into steady pull along the branch line.
Buoys ahead lean in different directions, a surface pattern revealing how many mantas now hang heavy beneath the array.
On deck, the pace quickens, voices rising over engine noise as another heavy bend reaches the hauler. A second manta appears under the foam, lighter patches of shoulder marking it as a different individual from the first.
The rail crew repeats its choreography, hooking reinforced edges and easing the massive animal into position along the hull.
With 2 mantas now secured, the vessel feels noticeably heavier, listing slightly as the line continues coming home.
Down the gear, more hooks come back empty, silent witnesses to open water where mantas passed without committing.
Then another heavy angle develops, the main line slicing foam as a third manta drags the bow slightly off course. At the rail, faces tighten with concentration, each man guessing from feel alone how big this one might be. The surface finally bulges again, a pale underside rolling just beneath as the manta fights the last vertical meters.
Crewmen talk constantly through the chaos, calling out slack, angles, and safe positions as the animal comes within reach.
Once again, reinforced wing edges take the strain, spreading force away from softer tissue as the manta is walked forward.
Tail ropes click into place again until 3 mantas now hang secured beside steel, their mass reshaping the waterline.
The hauler continues relentlessly, bringing back both success and empty stretches where bait drifted unclaimed across open black water.
One final heavy strike bends the rail, announcing a last manta that will determine whether the trip meets expectations.
When it surfaces, this manta proves broader than the others, filling the frame from wingtip to wingtip. Extra ropes spread its weight, the crew building a web of support before committing to lifting such concentrated mass.
The deck crane takes over, steel cables whining softly as thousands of pounds rise, dripping from the ocean skin. When the body finally settles onto non-skid, boots shuffle quickly, securing lines so no sudden roll can trap feet.
Now the crew counts quietly, tallying how many mantas rode this one set and how much space remains in the hold. With the last hook recovered, the gear is reset into neat coils, ready to be baited again another night. Before processing begins, each hook is removed carefully, twisted backward so it exits exactly along the path it entered. The freed hooks clatter into buckets, each one destined to be rebaited and returned to the dark water later.
Sevi knives now trace precise lines, separating powerful wings from central body, while seawater hoses keep decks clean. Broad wing sections slide onto trays, revealing firm, pale meat that will later be portioned into steaks and fillets.
Cartilage ridges and offcuts move separately, bound for rendering or bait rather than human plates and restaurant tables.
Each finished wing portion receives a quick rinse. Then workers stack it in plastic totes, ready for the chilled hold below.
Below, the cold room door swings open again, trading warm deck air for a blast of refrigerated fog.
Thermometers are checked repeatedly, confirming that every tote sits inside the narrow temperature window demanded by export buyers.
Back on deck, remaining carcasses are cleaned down to bone and cartilage, maximizing how much usable product each animal provides.
Hose water eventually runs clear, leaving only faint outlines on non-skid, where the day's work has already faded.
Evening finds the crew exhausted but alert, knowing more sets may be needed before catch totals justify steaming for port.
Outside, night closes around the hull, erasing the horizon so completely the deck lights feel like a floating island.
Morning brings fresh swell and new decisions, the captain weighing fuel, ice, and hold space against distant market prices. He chooses to turn shoreward, trading the chance of more catch for a timely arrival and fresher product.
The coastline returns slowly, first as a smudge on the horizon, then as familiar headlands and harbor structures breaking the waves. Inside the cold room, workers secure lids and straps, readying each tote for crane transfer once the vessel alongside.
Dockside cranes and forklifts wait like another crew, ready to continue moving the catch once the gangway drops.
The vessel's hull kisses rubber fenders again, ending the offshore chapter and beginning the port-side race against time.
Hatch covers swing open, revealing stacked totes that now must move quickly from shipboard cold to shore-based chill. A dockside crane lifts each palletized load, swinging it gently onto the pier, where forklifts already wait in position.
Forklifts shuttle loads into a nearby processing plant. compressing miles of ocean effort into a few short minutes of logistics. Inside the plant, receiving staff verify paperwork and weights, cross-checking every pallet against the captain's handwritten log.
Put the next one right here, centered. Got it. Need another rinse over there.
Knives trace parallel lines again, this time creating even planks sized for both retail display and restaurant kitchens. Offcuts are trimmed square, ensuring only clean, consistent pieces advance toward packaging, while smaller bits join the byproduct stream.
Calibrated scales confirm the weight of each portion, bringing uniformity that helps chefs predict cooking time and plate cost.
Vacuum machines then remove air from pouches, slowing oxidation and protecting meat during long journeys through distribution channels. Sealed packs slide onto racks headed for blast freezers, trading flexibility for rock-hard stability measured in months, not days. Once frozen solid, packs are boxed in layers, cushioned with liners that guard against temperature spikes and physical damage. Finished boxes move to cold storage racks, forming neat walls of product that compress weeks of risk into inventory. Shipping clerks assign lot numbers and destinations, translating catch logs into data streams that track each box across continents.
Reefer trucks back into loading bays, their insulated doors swallowing pallets that link coastal plants to inland restaurant markets.
Hours or days later, boxes arrive at city distributors, where staff break pallets down into orders for individual clients.
Some cases head directly to supermarkets, while select lots are reserved for high-end restaurants willing to pay premium prices.
One small shipment eventually lands in an urban kitchen, where chefs consider how best to translate wings into plated stories.
Plastic is peeled away, leaving pale, tightly grained meat ready for seasoning, searing, and final finishing touches.
Chefs trim each piece into clean lozenges, shaping them for even cooking and consistent presentation across every plate.
Simple seasoning follows, relying on salt, pepper, and oil rather than heavy sauces that would hide texture and flavor.
Portions hit a hot pan with a sharp hiss, edges browning while centers stay moist and just barely translucent.
Finished pieces rest briefly, allowing juices to settle so that each slice will show clear structure rather than running liquid.
On the plating line, vegetables and starches go down first, creating a base that will cradle each manta portion.
Seared manta takes its place on top, turning distant wing beats and deck work into a quiet, finished dish.
In the dining room, plates leave the pass one by one, carried through low light toward waiting customers.
At one table, diners pause briefly, appreciating color and arrangement before the first fork breaks the seared surface.
A cross-section reveals moist, opaque flesh, its fine grain showing how freezing and transport preserved the original structure.
Conversation around the table drifts between flavor and everyday life, the ocean labor behind each bite mostly unspoken.
In the kitchen, the last portions leave the pan, closing out this shipment, while new orders line the ticket rail. Back at the harbor, the Longline vessel spends a rare, quiet day alongside, gear drying in coils along the rail.
Inside the wheelhouse, the captain updates handwritten logs, recording conditions, yields, and the decisions that shaped this particular trip.
In nearby offices, buyers and managers study the same numbers, deciding how many future trips this market can support. Conservation rules shape the conversation, reminding everyone that each set balances revenue against long-term health of migrating populations.
On the pier, crewmen repair worn sections of line, replacing any frayed parts that might later cost fish or fingers.
Hooks are counted and sorted again, each one a small piece of steel that briefly connects surface industry to deep currents.
By late afternoon, the vessel looks ready again, decks cleared and gear stacked, as if the last trip never happened. Out beyond the breakwater, swell continues rising and falling, hiding mantas that will someday cross paths with this gear again.
Evening shadows stretch across the harbor as the Longline vessel rests quietly, its decks cleared and gangway raised.
Below deck, a quiet bunkroom holds scattered boots and jackets, evidence of fatigue earned far offshore. In the galley, late cups of coffee steam over worn table edges while talk drifts toward the next season's run.
Outside, the pier empties slowly, leaving only tied lines, coils of rope, and the smell of salt on concrete.
In a small storeroom, new hooks and swivels wait in bins, hardware that will later become invisible links to deep water.
Days later, the hull edges away from the pier again, beginning another cycle of risk, routine, and return.
Out past the breakwater, bow and swell meet again, steel lifting rhythmically over the same routes mapped in earlier seasons.
In the wheelhouse, pencil lines trace new grids across charts, anticipating where mantas and longlines might intersect next.
On deck, coiled lines and stacked tubs wait silently, potential energy that will soon stretch from rail to canyon floor.
Far below the hull, unseen mantas continue gliding along currents, indifferent to schedules yet central to every calculation made above.